President Trump reportedly taking a more low-key approach to Iran now. He's stepping up economic pressure, he says, and giving it time to take effect. It comes as Iran issues the United States 6 new demands just to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, not to get to a deal or back to the MOU or any of that. For the very latest, let's turn to Middle East correspondent Jody Cohen. Good morning to you, Jody.
Good morning. So President Trump compared the situation with Iran to a game of chess, saying the U.S. will come out on top. And according to reports, President Trump is low-keying his approach, choosing to let economic pressure take its toll on Tehran until they're ready to make concessions. Remember, Trump has repeatedly indicated that he's in no hurry, pointing to Iran's high inflation and the fact that the regime can't even pay its own troops. In the meantime, the U.S. will keep up the naval blockade of Iran's ports, sanctions on Iran and Iran's frozen assets. But Iran is demanding the lifting of all three to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. In addition, Iran is insisting that the U.S. pays full compensation for all damage caused in the war, must withdraw its military from the region, and permanently ends the war with Iran and its proxies, including Hamas, Hezbollah and the Houthis. Here's Revolutionary Guard spokesman Hussein Mohebi.
Look, the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz has its own specific mechanism and has no connection whatsoever to the negotiations between Iran and Oman. The reopening of the Strait of Hormuz is, in fact, subject to conditions set by the Islamic Republic of Iran, and the strait will be reopened on the basis of those conditions. That depends on the extent to which the United States accepts the conditions determined by the Islamic Republic of Iran.
Attacks by Iran and the Houthis are continuing. In the latest, there's been an oil spill from a tanker hit near Oman. And over the weekend, a Houthi attack in Yemen killed 7 people and wounded 30, including civilians. Meanwhile, in response to President Trump's chess remarks, Iran's foreign ministry said they are professional players. Back to you.
I heard that retort this morning as we came to air. Jody, regarding the economic pressure the president is talking about, he had made mention that, you know, some of their military men and women in Iran, they don't have enough money to pay them. What are you finding in terms of the economic pressure? What specifically is the president attempting to do here?
Yes, so as you said, the idea is that the economic pressure, they're in a situation now where President Trump has suggested that Iran can't even pay their troops. The idea is that increased economic pressure will weaken the regime further and could force Iran to make concessions when it comes to the Strait of Hormuz. We could still see strikes in the short term to prevent Iran attacking ships, but the idea is to perhaps prevent a large-scale military action, which President Trump has said that he is ready to do, but would prefer not to do.
Jody Cohen, live in Tel Aviv for us this morning. Jody, thank you. Let's welcome in our guest today, Heritage Foundation Senior Policy Analyst Andrew Harding joining us. Also with us, the Senate Chairman for the National Iranian Congress, author of Comrade Ayatollah Amir Fakhravar. Gentlemen, good morning to you. Good to see you both.
Good morning.
Andrew, let's start with you. You know, as former press, you've covered conflicts all around the world, this region specifically. Your thoughts on President's new approach here, a low-key approach, essentially pressing pause on the military action and allowing mounting economic pressure. Will it work?
Well, I think this certainly is a good chance of working because the president understands that time is on his side when it comes to having economic leverage on Iran, and Iran is unable to break through this leverage. The fact that the president has economic theory, the blockade on Iranian ports, and clearly the president showed that he's able to issue waivers on oil and also able to retract those waivers, meaning that the president has the ability to determine what economic access Iran is able to get. So when Iranian leadership claims that they're going to settle these terms on their own, that is unacceptable. Any proposal that Iran is demanding here are dead on arrival, and the president's made clear that he will negotiate in good faith if there's a deal to be made, but so far this Iranian regime refuses to do so. So keeping the pressure on is the right approach.
Yeah, the list of demands was almost laughable. We'll get to that in just a second. But Amir, how serious is the economic crisis? The president mentioned that IRGC can't pay its soldiers at the moment. What do you know?
Thank you. Thank you for having me. That's 100% correct. Yeah, we should admit President Trump is the smartest and the most confident president ever United States had. We can see how he is moderating this war. It's President Trump is right now. He is a battle-tested president. The United States Army, which never had any battle for last, let's say, 20 years, it's a battle-tested army too. In this new environment of the world, the world of technology, President Trump has the accurate information from inside Iran. We can hear it. Our big network inside Iran, they are telling us the economy is terrible over there, and the armies and the Revolutionary Guard, they don't get their paycheck. And this is the most dangerous factor against the regime. You know, the Shiaism, they never admit they lost the war. Even when their third Imam Hussein, was killed and was beheaded, they went everywhere and said, oh, we won the war. The same as right now, when the supreme leader is killed, his son is disappeared, they're saying we won. But no, they lost. They lost. It will be definitely the change of the regime, even if President Trump doesn't want to send the troops inside Iran. The regime have been changed. We, the Iranian people, we will finish the job, but we need United States and Israel to stay there and give us the support, and then see the Iranian people will finish the job.
Well, they sure are talking tough this morning as it comes to, or as it pertains to the Strait. Leaders are suggesting, hey, we're nearing this final pact with Oman, trying to define these new shipping lanes through the Strait. But even then, they're saying, hey, the Strait's not going to be open. To do that, we want compensation. And their words were in the demand for 2 wars. They want us to pay them compensation. They want us to end the sanctions. They want an end to all military threats and apologize, I think was in the list of demands as well, before they even talk about, here we are right here, this list of demands they've put out this morning. I mean, Andrew, it feels like Iran is poking the bear. They're trying to provoke the United States.
It's just completely atrocious that this is what they're advocating for. It is completely dead on arrival. The fact that they're expecting the United States, it's quite just ironic when I think about it. This terroristic regime that has been in power for 47 years, encouraging terrorist proxies or demanding the United States permanently end threats and hostilities. Are you kidding me? That is not going to fly with President Trump. So I think the president is right to ensure that the United States keep his foot on the gas, keep economic pressure on the regime. And it's true that if the economy in Iran is free falling here, which all indications show that this is the case, it becomes a question of time. And the Iranian regime, they may have some missiles. They may be able to pop in and out with mobile launchers, fire a missile or two in the Strait. But you can't do that weeks over weeks over weeks if you're losing hundreds of millions of dollars a day. So the president has the right approach to hopefully get a good solution in the next few weeks or months.
We are seeing this drip, 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 if you will, on this story about the stockpile, our weapons stash. The Pentagon has reportedly asked the U.S. defense industry to ramp up production. That's now undisputed. I want to ask you, Amir, what are your sources telling you about Iran's missile capability right now? What do they have left?
It's not about what they have left. It's about how much China and Russia can send them again. Because we heard the news, it came on the Reuters, that the China via Pakistan, the mediator, think about it, have been trying to send some missiles to Iran. And it will happen. Definitely China and Russia, they are going to send missiles and drones to the regime. U.S. should control that part. It's a naval blockade. It should be the blockade all over the country and make sure regime cannot get anything. Yes, and my advice to President Trump is to let the Israelis, give them the green light, the Israelis to take care of the situation of the leftovers of the regime, and actively United States government should help Iranian oppositions. It's a war since November 4th, 1979, when regime took hostage the American diplomats. Regime started this war, and President Trump can end it. President Trump, this U.S. administration right now have to call the Iranian opposition figures to come together and establish a constitutional assembly, the 7th Constitutional Assembly. We, the Iranian people, we are waiting for our 1776 moment. Then when the Constitutional Assembly is formed outside the country, then we can take care of inside. 10 million Iranians are outside, 90 million inside. We are all pro-Americans, and we are ready to topple the regime. Just we need to make sure the international community, it's a joke, international community, United States government to support us.
Andrew, final thoughts here. I mean, the truth is if the United States and Israel took out Iran's ability to produce oil, decimate carbon, and delete their production capability, it would set back the people for decades. And that's why he's been dragging his feet, he said, at the encouragement of Saudi Arabia and other partners in the region. But if that were to happen, it would change the geopolitical chessboard, if you will, and no longer would be interesting. Iran would no longer be interesting to China and Russia. It would eliminate that connection altogether, would it not?
Well, we're already seeing how the Middle East is changing. Certainly see how Gulf states are more closely aligned with the United States. We've seen changes in OPEC. We've seen new energy pipelines being transitioned out of the Strait of Hormuz. Things are already changing under President Trump's leadership, as well as his push for more countries joining the Abraham Accord. So you're right. We certainly, in the end state of this conflict, we do want to see an Iran that does not have as much support from China or Russia. I think the president understands that notion. But at the end of the day, as long as Iran doesn't get a nuclear weapon, I think the president will be happy to see that the American people are kept safe from this regime.
Andrew Harding, Amir Fakhravar, great conversation as always. Good to see you both. Thank you.
Thank you.
The Lincoln